As a parent, there are a lot of things that can scare you. Knowing that your teen could be introduced to drugs while at school or with friends is a big one. Now there's a new way that people are using marijuana, making it more accessible and more dangerous. Ed O'Reilly of the Neil Kennedy Recovery Clinic is joining me today. We are talking teens and THC. Ed, it seems like every week there's a new trend in the drug world.
It does seem that way. It's been accelerated by the fact that with the legalization in a couple of states out west, it's made it more profitable to get into this line of work. And so, not surprisingly, more people are being more inventive, and you're coming out with a lot of new forms. You have the edibles in a variety of forms, and they've come up with a nice way to distill out the THC out of marijuana in an extremely high concentration. And it's given rise to new forms of marijuana, which are far more concentrated of THC than we have ever seen before.
It's scary to even think about.
Well, it is, because the issue, particularly with adolescents, teenagers, is that the brain isn't completely formed until the early, sometimes mid-20s. And THC in marijuana is preferentially deposited in fat cells. Without getting too technical,
right.
The last part of the brain to develop is this little lining of fat cells that goes around the nerve endings in the brain. It's called the myelin sheath, for those who are inclined, you know. But since THC goes into fat cells, it goes into the fatty cells that are lining the nerve endings in the brain.
Okay.
And we're getting like ridiculously high amounts of THC going into some of these teenagers' brains. We were talking before the show a little bit about, we have a teenager in treatment now who registered on the urine screen that we did a level of THC that was twice as high as I have ever seen in my career.
So just off the charts.
Literally off the charts.
Off the charts.
We got it back from the lab, and it said greater than 2,000. And I called them, and they said, well, we stopped measuring it after 2,000 because we've never seen that before.
Right.
And so it's a lot. So we get these forms. Some people have heard of it. This particular young lady was using a lot of dab, they call it.
Right.
It goes by different names, but yes, it's cause for concern.
Now, if we go back just a little bit to the basic, what is THC? Because I know that's the one that's getting all, you know, the hype. It's just the ingredient, correct?
It is. It is. I guess I got a little ahead of myself.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, THC is tetrahydrocannabinol, I believe.
Okay.
It's a mouthful, so let's just call it THC. It's the active ingredient in marijuana. It's the stuff that gets you high.
Okay, basically.
And so when you test for, has somebody been using marijuana, that's what you're testing for.
Okay.
Is the presence of THC. It's also, since it's the stuff in there that gets you high, the more THC that's in there, okay, per given amount of substance, the more potent it's going to be. It's quite analogous to, for example, proof in alcohol.
Okay.
Okay, the higher the proof, the higher the percentage of alcohol that's in the liquid.
And this whole process, this distilling THC, and you mentioned the name of it, dab, that is one of the street names for it. What exactly is that? Because I know that some people have never heard of it, and it can look very different than just what marijuana looks like right now.
Well, it looks like wax, actually, is what it looks like. Depending, it comes in different forms depending on how they distill it, but sometimes it's waxy, sometimes it's somewhat the consistency of peanut brittle.
Okay.
Kind of, but very tiny. They call it dab because very tiny amounts are needed to get high because the concentration is so high. And so you do a little dab will do you, which is like a very old reference for which I apologize. That's an old commercial.
Oh yeah, no, I exactly know what you mean. But I mean, unfortunately, that's probably what they're using.
That is what they're using
to kind of sell this.
And I mean, it is true.
Right.
The concentration level is very high. The problem that we have is that we used to be able to say, okay, marijuana is not the best thing to use. You can become addicted to it. It's particularly bad for people with developing brains, et cetera, et cetera. But at least you're not going to overdose on it and die.
Right.
Okay. That is no longer true.
with things like this.
With stuff that's this concentrated.
Right.
Okay. Now, as far as I know, there are no recorded instances of fatalities, but what it will do is it'll initially spike the blood pressure, and then it actually acts as a central nervous system depressant, so people will get really lethargic. It hasn't killed anybody yet. Okay, but it definitely,
there though.
Well, yeah.
Yet, right?
Yes.
I mean,
it definitely has resulted in quite a few trips to the ER.
Right. Dangerous stuff, though.
Yes, it is, and with it going into edibles as well, it's like you can get things really high concentrations. E-cigarettes.
Right. Another trendy kind of thing that has come out for teens using. So, all really, I guess, volatile stuff for them to get their hands on.
It is, and the other thing that has happened is, because you can get THC concentrated cartridges to go into e-cigarettes the same way you get nicotine cartridges to go into e-cigarettes. And one of the problems is we've removed out of the equation the old giveaway, which is, I know you've been smoking marijuana, I can smell it, okay?
So that's the big problem.
And now it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, you can now be smoking an e-cigarette and be getting stoned, and aside from the fact that you're stoned and stupid, okay, I can't smell it.
Right. All right, Ed, we ran out of time, unfortunately. Such a good topic to remind parents about dangerous stuff here. We have your information on the screen right now, the phone number, the website, so anybody who needs it can get a hold of you at the Recovery Center. So thank you so much.
Very good. Nice.